I think we still have some real needs in our accountability tools that when districts are authorizing charters, that they need to be able to, the law needs to be very clear that this stuff is, frankly, that the way that students are treated and the way that students are disciplined, if they're at high rates, that is a piece of accountability that schools can, that authorizers can use to shut down charter schools. Parents definitely need to learn to know, do the research and get to know their rights. But frankly, this isn't something we can leave up to parents. This is the job of school operators, it's the job of teachers, it's the job of principals, it's the job of our superintendents and our policymakers to ensure that schools are giving parents their rights, that schools are informing parents that there are advocates out there that can help them potentially in a hearing that they have, and to provide parents that are facing disciplinary actions with guidance that you don't have to be counseled out of your school, that you do have a right to this hearing, and that it's not the principal's decision as to whether or not your child is expelled from a school. Rather, it's the decision of the governing body of that school, and that you have a right to a hearing and a public meeting in which they have to vote to expel your child from that school. So there's a lot of public education that needs to happen, but the real push needs to happen with policymakers to ensure that parents are provided with that education. There also, there is also just some additional, accountability issues that need to be brought into this. So if a charter school is having high success rates in their test scores, in their graduation rates, and we need to look closer at that to make sure that that's not happening as a result or based on because of the fact that they're pushing out students that are more challenging to serve. So we need to look at attrition rates. We need to look at the reasons for why students are withdrawing from those schools, and these need to be publicly reported. We need to get rid of this notion that a lot of charter schools will perpetuate, that some students aren't a quote-unquote good fit for some schools. Charter schools are comprehensive schools. Their legal obligation is to be a fit for every kind of child, and that there are plenty of children who are not a quote-unquote good fit for virtually any school. And that's the job that our schools have. We have to meet children where they're at and make sure that we fit the needs that they have. A lot of charters will have a policy of not backfilling. So in other words, if a student leaves their school, they will not replace that student with another student. And through this process, some schools really heavily front load their enrollment processes. So in other words, if they're a high school, they'll have significantly greater numbers of students in 9th grade, and they'll in fact count on and plan for a certain amount of attrition that happens throughout the school year. If a charter school knows that every time a student leaves that they have to replace that student, then they'll do a better job of retaining the students that they currently have, because they've already worked with those students, they're already cultured them into their cultures, and so there's really no legal basis for charter schools to say they don't have to backfill. And so I think we do need some clarification at the state level that clarifies that backfilling is a requirement for all public schools, including charter schools.
So assuming that this first year of reviews is successful, I'd really like to begin working on what are called equity reports. So these have been piloted in Washington, D.C. and in New Orleans. Essentially what they do is they take academic and climate data for a school and they break it down by demographics. So you can essentially see, are boys 3 times more likely to be suspended than girls? Are special education students twice as likely to be expelled as non-special education students? Are white students twice as likely to be proficient on the PSSA within a school as its black students? I think that's the next level of transparency in terms of providing families with real information about not just how a school is performing overall, but whether or not the school has figured out a way to serve its students equitably.
Right now we've kind of hit a interesting roadblock. We have so many referrals and we are trying to get enough advocates to take on those cases. A lot of times we have to do phone advocacy because the case turnaround is so short. So what we're doing right now is we're not really trying to get the word out and get more referrals, since we have a ton of them already and it seems that people are really hearing about SDAS, but we're trying to create sort of institutional change.
As the charter sector grows and matures, I think we're seeing some greater attention to these issues and even some self-policing happening among certain charter leaders. There are some terrific charter leaders that are out there and recognizing that, you know what, just having high test scores isn't enough. And even having high graduation rates aren't enough if we're not serving the students that need to be served the most. So